lifting the public mood. Also coming up, Lord Geitz, the Prime Minister's ethics commissioner, essentially says that he may well resign over the Partygate scandal. We'll be hearing from the political reaction of Westminster as the pressure continues to mount on the Prime Minister. And also, Gloria De Piero has been back in Ashford to meet voters there to get a gauge on politics in the Red Wall. We'll have a special report from Gloria later on. As always, do also get in touch with your views. You can email me at gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet me at gbnews. A busy programme between now and 4. But first, at the top of the hour, let's bring you up to date with the very latest news. Back in London with Rosie Wright.
A very good afternoon to you. It's 1 minute past 3. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date on GB News. Now, the Prime Minister says it would be irresponsible to quit over Partygate. Boris Johnson told Mumsnet he will not abandon ship when there are huge pressures on the economy and the war in Ukraine. Well, it's after his own ethics advisor, Lord Gates, suggested the Prime Minister's fine over lockdown breaches may have broken the ministerial code. That is something that Mr Johnson disputes. The Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, has told GB News the Prime Minister won't be facing a leadership challenge.
It's only Graham Brady, the chair of the 1922 committee, that will know, but I'm confident that the overwhelming majority of MPs that I talk to want to see us focused on the job at hand, the cost of living, the situation in Ukraine, the crime-fighting agenda, the skills agenda, and so I think it's very unlikely we'll see a leadership challenge.
Shadow Levelling Up Secretary Lisa Nandy says Conservative MPs should have the courage to say enough is enough.
This is just a damning indictment of the Prime Minister's leadership, that successive ethics advisers just feel that they can't trust the integrity of the Prime Minister. This is a government that is rotten to the core, but the rot starts from the top.
More than 150 flights have been cancelled today, forcing passengers to wait in long queues at airports. British Airways has cancelled at least 124 flights at Heathrow. EasyJet's cancelled over 30 from Gatwick. TUI Airways is continuing to cancel 6 daily flights from Manchester Airport. That's a quarter of its schedule. Airlines are blaming delays and cancellations on staff shortages. Well, meanwhile, union leaders are calling for urgent talks with the London Mayor to stop a 24-hour tube strike planned for the Monday after the Jubilee weekend. It's members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union who are protesting over job cuts and pensions. The footballer Kurt Zouma has been sentenced to 180 hours of community service and has been banned from keeping cats for 5 years after he admitted to kicking and slapping his pet cat. He's also been told to pay court costs of nearly £9,000. The 27-year-old West Ham defender pleaded guilty last week at Thames Magistrates Court to 2 counts of animal cruelty. A video of the incident was shared by his brother, who admitted aiding and abetting the offence. His brother's been ordered to carry out 140 hours of community service. MPs are calling for a 2-year deadline to be given to the road haulage sector to improve conditions and recruit more lorry drivers, or it could face a new tax. The Commons Transport Select Committee has found that poor overnight facilities and staff shortages are creating a supply chain bottleneck. Unless things improve, they say, a proposed supply chain levy could force supermarkets, oil companies and online giants to pay towards better conditions for HGV drivers. A Ukrainian MP has warned parts of the global south could be tipped into famine if action isn't taken to unblock the country's ports. Kira Rudik said millions of tons of grain needed to be released from the country. Ukraine is a major grain producer with a total of 80 million tonnes produced last year. It's also the world's largest producer of sunflower oil. Well, Grow Intelligence, they're a company that specialises in predicting food security trends. They told the UN Security Council that just 10 weeks of wheat were available in the world's stores. Scotland today becomes the first UK nation to ban single-use plastic. Legislation comes into force which makes it an offence for food outlets to provide plastic cutlery, plates and stirrers. 700 million single-use items are thrown away every year in Scotland. Businesses who breach the new rules could face a fine of £5,000. You're up to date on GB News and I'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's head back to Darren and the briefing.
Thank you very much indeed, Rosie. It is, 5 minutes past 3 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. We're live on TV, online and on your DAB digital radio. Thank you very much indeed for your company. As you can see, I'm in Wakefield this afternoon, and that's because there's going to be a by-election here in a couple of weeks' time, a real battle between the Labour and the Conservative Party, a real test of public opinion, clearly on the Prime Minister, but also about Labour's ability to win the next general election. Prime Minister's under an awful lot of pressure, of course, when it comes to the Partygate scandal in the wake of the Sue Gray report, suggestions he could face a vote of no confidence. But in addition to that, there is the cost of living crisis that's clearly affecting millions of people across the country, and indeed people here in Wakefield, a real squeeze on people's standards of living. Will that be reflected in the by-election result? But frankly, it is also a real test for the Labour Party too. Labour have held Wakefield for decades. They lost the seat only 3 years ago, and many would suggest if Labour cannot win back seats like Wakefield's on June 23rd, then the prospects of winning the next general election seem pretty low indeed. And that's how I started an interview, or the interview that was carried out by journalists earlier on today, with the Shadow Minister for Levelling Up, that is Lisa Nandy, who was speaking to journalists a little bit earlier on, and it started by asking about the Wakefield by-election.
We're not complacent. We're going out and fighting for every single vote. There's a lot at stake here. This is a fresh start for Wakefield, who deserve an MP with integrity and decency, but it's also a fresh start for the country. This country deserves leadership with trust, honesty, decency and integrity again. This is the moment where we're going to show that Labour is on the way back, and we're going to fight for every single vote in order to make that happen.
But it is a test, isn't it? You have to admit, for Keir Starmer, for the Labour Party, I mean, Wakefield should be natural Labour territory.
We lost Wakefield 3 years ago, as well as many, many seats that had voted Labour consistently for decades, and we knew we had a mountain to climb. We're not complacent. We're earning back people's trust. We started that hard road back 3 years ago, and we're confident that here in Wakefield, with Simon Lightwood as our candidate, we're going to show the difference that Labour can make.
Let's talk about Lord Geitz. Should he resign?
I think this is just a damning indictment of the Prime Minister's leadership, that successive ethics advisers just feel that they can't trust the integrity of the Prime Minister. This is a government that is rotten to the core, but the rot starts from the top. If you can't trust the Prime Minister to act with decency and integrity, not to bend the rules when it suits him and rewrite the rules when he falls foul of them, can you trust him when he says that he'll actually deliver on tackling the cost of living crisis or dealing with Russian aggression in Ukraine? If you can't trust a single word the Prime Minister says, then the problems go much deeper than one ethics advisor.
But is the position that Lord Geitz should resign?
I mean, Lord Geitz has got to make his own decision about whether he resigns or not. What is clear to the whole country, though, is that this is a Prime Minister who lacks integrity, who lacks the decency and honesty that it takes to lead this country. If you can't trust him on whether he can follow his own rules, whether he'll rewrite those rules or tear up those rules because he thinks he doesn't apply to them, how can you trust him when he says that he'll tackle the cost of living crisis engulfing families and businesses across this country?
Surely if Boris Johnson is unpopular, as you say he is, if he's electoral liability, Labour would want to keep him in place. You should be discouraging Conservative MPs from putting their letters of confidence in.
We live in this country and we have a stake in the future of this country, and whether it's good for the Labour Party or not, it is not good for this country to have a government that is fighting amongst itself, where Tory MPs know that they cannot trust a word that this man says, where nothing is being delivered and where far too many people are struggling to keep their heads above water. We want Tory MPs to do the right thing and have the courage and the backbone to stand up and say enough is enough.
You talked about, though, didn't you, trust in politics and also about law breaking. We know that Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner have been sent questionnaires. There's a lot of people out there that don't trust their story, who question whether they have broken the law.
I'm confident that Keir Starmer didn't break the rules. I wasn't at the event in Durham, but I know Keir. He is Mr. Rules. He doesn't break the rules, he makes the rules. And this is part of the process. The questionnaire is part of the process that Durham Police have to go through. But it is not the same scenario as the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has said he broke the rules. Having made the rules, he lied about it, he laughed about it, and then he tried to tear up those standards standards because he didn't believe they applied to him, in stark contrast to Keir and Angela, who've said if any rules were broken, if a fine is issued, they would resign.
There you go, that was Lisa Nandy speaking to reporters a little bit earlier on in Wakefield. Well, delighted to say joining me now is Tony Hodges. He is from Wakefield Bid and joined me outside the cathedral here in the town. Tony, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on GBNews. I suppose, first of all, just explain what Wakefield Bid is, what you're trying to achieve.
It was new to me, Darren, just over a year ago. I was just working in an office down the road talking to somebody saying, why don't they do this in Wakefield? Why don't they do that? And the person was involved with Wakefield Bid. He said, you need to talk to Wakefield Bid. I said, what on earth's that? This is the Business Improvement District. And over the last year, I've learned that it is the energising centre that is to bring together the local business community, local government, churches and charities to be able to work together for the restoration of the prosperity in all senses of the city, and especially the city centre.
Yeah, and I see there's a sign, our viewers can see it behind you, saying vote yes for a better Wakefield. What does a better Wakefield look like?
What it looks like to me, Darren, is very much a joined up Wakefield. I only recently really started to work inside Wakefield. Most of my career has been outside Wakefield, either in the UK or America or Australia. But wherever I go, working with cities, I see there's a great fragmentation. And as just somebody who just almost addicted to bringing people together, I want to see a joined up. There are so many good people with good hearts who are really working for the good of this city. And I suppose the question to me is how I can actually get them talking to each other, perhaps more than their normal silo structures allow them.
Yeah, indeed, though, when you walk around, I've been walking around Wakefield today, you know, there are a lot of shuttered shops. It's a lot like high streets, though, up and down this country. That's a real challenge, isn't it, trying to keep city centres effectively alive?
I think it is, but I think the hope is there. First of all, there's a great heart of everybody I speak to really, people have not given up in Wakefield. There's a great energy to actually do something about it. One of the interesting things that I picked up on my travels in business, which I think is part of the key, is that apparently the percentage of entrepreneurs globally are about 2%, and wherever you go, whether you go to a city or whether you go to a country that, you know, that's got very little education, you'll find the same percentage of entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I hope to be able to do is to do something to release that and bring that in, because I think a lot of the business people can actually bring stuff that perhaps they wouldn't normally think about. We've got, for instance, one of the largest Coca-Cola plants in Europe is here. Other large manufacturers are here. What perhaps have they got to do to release some of their top management for the betterment of the city? So that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping at some stage I might be able to do.
And in many ways, of course, you know, places like Wakefield should be top of the agenda, and the government's levelling up, shouldn't they? But at the same time, people are suggesting this squeeze, this inflation crisis is going to make things a lot more difficult.
Terribly, terribly difficult. And I think we've got the same, if not more. We've got a lot of people here who are finding it incredibly hard. But again, it's when we sit down with people and get alongside them face to face and ask them, what are the issues face to face that we can do to help you? We can start to find some real solutions. So as somebody from a communications background, I want to do that. I want to see the city communicating better.
But is there, just to finally, Tony, a sense here, you know, you used to say you've been back for a year or so. Clearly everyone's been through a very difficult period with the pandemic.
Very.
But is there a sense that actually the squeeze on people's living standards is potentially worse here, more difficult than it is in other parts of the country?
What I hear is it is. But again, you know, as I was thinking on the way here, one of the fantastic things about our country is that bulldog spirit. We're at a time of great celebration this weekend, and so the greater the challenge, the greater I believe the people of Wakefield will rise to it.
Okay. Tony, thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
Tony Hodges there from the Wakefield Bid. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here outside Wakefield Cathedral. As we say, we talked about the by-election, haven't we? That's due to be held on the 23rd of June. Let me just take you through the candidates who are standing in that by-election. Nadeem Ahmed for the Conservatives, Akif Akbar, who's an independent, Paul Bickerdike from the Christian People's Alliance, Mick Dodson of the Freedom Alliance, Jada Franson is an independent, Jordan Gaskell standing for UKIP, David Harrison of the Yorkshire Party, Therese Hurst from the English Democrats, Christopher Jones is the Northern Independent Party candidate, Simon Lightwood is standing for Labour, Jamie Needle for the Liberal Democrats, Ash Ruth for the Green Party, Ashley Simon from Britain First, Sir Archibald Stanton, Earl Eaton, of course, from the Monster Mary Rooney Party, and Christopher Walsh from Reform UK. And of course, GBNews will bring coverage over the weeks ahead of the by-election, both here in Wakefield and the one down in Tiverton, as we go ahead towards that date of June 23rd. Let's turn to Westminster politics now. It's been a busy 24 hours. We've seen more letters go in to the 1922 chair to try and prompt a leadership bid in the Prime Minister. We've also had questions over Lord Geit, the ethics advisor to the Prime Minister, suggestions he may resign over Sue Gray's reports, and the implication, more than implication, that of course Boris Johnson may, did indeed, get a fine, a fixed penalty fine. Was that in breach of the ministerial code? And if so, should the Prime Minister resign? Well, the Prime Minister today has been talking to Mumsnet, not just about his delights of chocolate biscuits, but also that he thinks it would be irresponsible to resign. Let's cover it all now. Let's go to Tom Harwood, our political correspondent, who is standing by in the studio in Paddington for us. Tom, good afternoon to you. Lots to break down. Let's start with Lord Geit. This ethics commissioner or advisor to the Prime Minister, it's not the first time he suggested he may well resign. Where are we at with all of this?
Yes, he does seem to be in a bit of a yo-yoing position. However, Lord Geit sent the Prime Minister a letter just a few days ago suggesting that the Prime Minister should explain himself as to why he has not breached the ministerial code with regard to his fixed penalty notice. Now, it has to be said, at the same time we learnt of this letter, we also learnt of Boris Johnson's reply to this letter, in which the Prime Minister stated that he did not think that a fixed penalty notice, being a step short of a criminal penalty, that it is a sort of halfway house as it was designed, does not count as a breach of the code, is not a specific criminal penalty. He also made mention in that letter of the Chancellor's fixed penalty notice, a much more contentious fixed penalty notice, I suppose, with many people a bit bewildered as to why the Chancellor received one for his brief appearance around the Cabinet table at a rather miserable-looking event with some sandwiches and cake on the table. So really the Prime Minister sticking to his guns there, saying he does not think that what he was fined for constitutes a breach of the ministerial code, that it was an inadvertent error for which he has apologised and corrected the record for.
Indeed, Tom. Also, we heard, didn't we, from the Prime Minister this afternoon, he suggested that he did think about resigning, it seems from that interview he was given to Mumsnet, but it'd be irresponsible, he put it, to do so.
That's right. He seemed to suggest that exactly what is needed now is a sense of stability, that there is a job still to be done, that this is a man who is not yet spent, who got elected 2.5 years ago with a historic majority, and that there is work still to be done. Although it has to be said, this was a majority that was put to use for the first 3 months of his premiership before everything got whacked off course by a historic once-in-a-century event. With the pandemic sweeping the world. I think this is what Boris Johnson's premiership will forever be known for, and indeed a successive crisis after that with the invasion of Ukraine. It has in some ways been an unlucky premiership, and there's still more that the Prime Minister wants to do. There's a manifesto he was elected on that he wants to fulfil. However, clearly there's now concern within Number 10 as to whether or not he will get the opportunity. There's so much speculation now that the number of letters in may well have actually passed the threshold. Unlikely we will find out until the start of next week, with Sir Graham Brady not wanting to announce this over recess, if that is it has happened, not wanting to spoil the Queen's Jubilee bank holiday weekend. We may well learn a lot more on Monday.
And just finally, Tom, it's interesting, isn't it, this debate about whether Boris Johnson is lucky or unlucky in many regards. Many have suggested he's been pretty lucky throughout his career. He is, after all, now in Number 10. But you're right, it's been a pretty unlucky premiership. I was suggesting yesterday we're getting to squeaky bum time, though, for the Prime Minister. There is a sense that potentially something could happen next week or the weeks to come. Is that your sense as well, that this is, the moment of danger is imminent, potentially?
Moment of danger is certainly imminent, and it may well be that there is a confidence vote in the Prime Minister next week. It's not a certainty, but it's certainly a growing possibility. However, there is a distinction we need to draw between the numbers of 54 and over 180. 54, the number of letters that need to be submitted to Sir Graham Brady's safe in his room in order to call that no confidence vote, and over 180, the number of Conservative MPs that would actually need to vote no confidence in order to dislodge the Prime Minister. And that is a rather higher bar. Indeed, the last time that a challenge in the leader of the Conservative Party was brought, Theresa May, in December 2018, she survived that challenge. She won with a majority of the party, although clearly her premiership was destabilised by that event. Clearly a large amount of dissatisfaction was revealed, the true numbers were revealed, and around 5 or 6 months later, after a historic defeat in the European elections, when, let's not forget, the Conservative Party came not second, not third, not fourth, but fifth, with 9% of the vote behind the Brexit Party, the Lib Dems, the Labour Party and the Greens. That is when Theresa May stepped down, although clearly she was destabilised by that vote, and a vote of no confidence revealing maybe 3 figures of Conservative MPs not wanting the Prime Minister to continue in his role, revealing the level of dissent in the party, does make governance a lot harder and might well begin a slow decline, if not an immediate end.
Yeah, indeed, Tom, and that's maybe why, of course, the by-elections here in Wakefield and in Tiverton on June 23rd could be crucial. As always, Tom, thank you very much indeed. Tom Holworth, our political correspondent, joining us down the line from London. OK, you're watching GB News. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we've got Claudia Vieira's special report from her old constituency. Don't miss that. Plus, we're going to be in Northern Ireland talking about Brexit and the protocol and the political crisis there. All that and much more after we bring you up to date with the weather. It's a pretty mixed bag here, and I think it is across much of the country. Here's the Met Office with the details.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather outlook. As we go into the long weekend, the weather gets more complicated, but for most places, tomorrow is going to be a fine day. A bit of a chilly start and then plenty of sunshine. The main exception to that will be Northern Ireland. This set of weather fronts just drifting southwards, interrupting the area of high pressure that is, as I say, bringing most of us a fine day, but it will bring more cloud to Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still this evening, a few heavy showers around over northern and eastern parts of England, but they're fading pretty rapidly, so generally it's a dry night, a clear night. Might turn a little misty, 1 or 2 fog patches over eastern parts of England. Certainly it's turning chilly. Temperatures again down into single figures, and again parts of Scotland not far off freezing. So a chilly start to the bank holiday. Any mist and fog will clear very quickly in the morning, and then basically blue skies for most of England, Wales and much of Scotland. But there's that weather front introducing the cloud for Northern Ireland. Rain creeping in from the west. A few showers are possible over parts of Scotland, northern England, but very hit and miss. Most places will be dry and fine and quite a bit warmer than it has been. Temperatures widely in the south up to 20 degrees or a little higher. Through Thursday evening, we will see a bit more of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland, maybe a few more showers over northern Scotland, and then overnight, increasing chance of a bit more cloud coming in through the Irish Sea and bringing a few more showers here and there for Friday. So Friday looks like being fairly cloudy for Wales, northwest England, southwest England, and a few showers scattered about, maybe for Northern Ireland too. But again, many central and eastern parts on Friday also set fair, dry and fine, with some sunshine and fairly light winds. There will be a bit of a breeze picking up along some of these North Sea coasts, making it feel a little cooler here. But inland, temperatures again up over 20 Celsius. As we go towards Saturday and Sunday, though, increasing chance of cloud and some showers across the south. Bye for now.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street.
We'll bring you 4 days of
unforgettable moments
this bank holiday weekend.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos
at Jubilee at gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us
on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jubilee, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Jubilee, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
Very welcome back to the briefing, live this afternoon from Wakefield. Do get in touch, by the way, GBViews at gbnews.uk, or indeed tweet us at GBNews, particularly if you live in Wakefield or Yorkshire. We'll get to those a little later on in the programme. But let's now turn to Northern Ireland, because Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister, the man who helped negotiate the Good Friday Agreement, has warned that on the Northern Ireland Protocol, the EU needs to make a significant shift on its stance on border checks if it is to ensure the longevity of the Good Friday Agreement. He's asking for both Brussels and London to show maximum flexibility to thrash out a compromise. It comes as Sinn Féin are currently in Brussels today, meeting with the EU Commission on that Northern Ireland Protocol. Let's speak to Dougie Beattie, our Northern Ireland reporter, who joins us from Ballycastle in Northern Ireland. Pretty gloomy here in Wakefield. I think it's pretty sunny where you are, Dougie, but these protracted problems with the protocol continue.
They do, and Tony Blair's comments are perfectly understandable. The problem with the Good Friday Agreement was it was two different things to two different people. To nationalists, they seen it very much as a step forward into a united Ireland, and for unionists, they seen it as the final solution. So at this moment in time, the protocol is very much leaning towards a European solution, and it doesn't give any law giving or credence to the unionist population, who see themselves very, very committed to the UK. Now, of course, in the middle of that, we have the problem with the cost of living, and as a lot of our goods are coming from the UK into Northern Ireland, Our pound is shrinking. It's down about 6%, I think. And that means that it encourages you to buy goods that are local. And if a lot of our local goods in the sterling land are coming from the UK, these checks are causing unnecessary inflationary problems in our hand. Mind you, last week I spent in Dublin and we were looking at the problems that the protocol will cause for Dublin. Huge amounts of trade go between the UK and the Irish Republic every single year. If there was a trade war happen tomorrow, the Irish Republic would be the first to be hit by this. And therefore, Mary Lou MacDonald, the leader of Sinn Féin, who sits in the Dáil, she's a Taoiseach Dáil or a TD. Michelle O'Neill is the leader of Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland. They're over ensuring that Maurice Seprovich stands by what is happening now, because of course if Sinn Féin see any divergence from the protocol, it could seriously hurt the Republic of Ireland's economy. And on the other side of that, Tony Blair is saying that the peace here will be shattered. Now, many things in the Good Friday Agreement were very sketchy. The on-the-run letters, deals done that shouldn't have been done. But one thing about the Good Friday Agreement, and you've got to remember at one point, Northern Ireland, the violence here was worse than it was in Beirut. I lived through it. He brought 25 years of peace to Northern Ireland. And that is a very, very real threat at this minute in time inside the province. Unionism is retreating, and when unionist retreats, it defends, and that is a problem.
OK, Doogie, thank you very much indeed. And as you say, this always has massive consequences, of course, for the Northern Ireland Assembly, which, 3 or 4 weeks since those elections are still not up and running. No prospect of that happening either anytime soon. Dougie Beattie, as always, there in Northern Ireland. Thank you very much indeed. OK, you're watching GB News. We're in Wakefield. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, though, we're going to be heading down the M1 to Ashford, to Gloria Piero's former constituency. She's been talking to people there about what they think of politics. An extended special report on that in just a couple of minutes. You won't want to miss it. Really, really fascinating stuff. But first, let's go back to London just after 3:30. Here's the latest headlines again with Rosie.
Good afternoon. It is 3:32. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News ahead of an exciting weekend to come. The Prime Minister says it would be irresponsible to quit over Partygate. Boris Johnson told Mumsnet he will not abandon ship when there are huge pressures on the economy and the war in Ukraine. It's after his own ethics advisor, Lord Geitz, suggested the Prime Minister's fine over lockdown breaches may have broken the ministerial code. That's something Mr Johnson disputes. More than 150 flights have been cancelled today, forcing passengers to wait in long queues at airports. The Liberal Democrats have called for the army to be deployed to ease queues at airports and ports, as they say, to save the Jubilee weekend. The Transport Secretary has been meeting with airline bosses today to find out what's causing the delays. Union leaders are calling for urgent talks with the London Mayor to stop a 24-hour tube strike on Monday after the Jubilee weekend. Members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union are protesting over job cuts and pensions. The footballer Kurt Zouma has been ordered to carry out 180 hours of community service and has been banned from keeping cats for 5 years after he admitted to slapping his pet cat and kicking it in a video. He's also been told to pay court costs of nearly £9,000. The 27-year-old West Ham defender pleaded guilty last week at Thames Magistrate Court to 2 counts of animal cruelty. A Ukrainian MP has warned that parts of the global south could be tipped into famine if action isn't taken to unblock the country's ports. Kira Rudik says millions of tons of grain need to be released from the country. Grow Intelligence, a company that specialises in predicting food and security trends, told the UN Security Council that just 10 weeks of wheat were available in the world's stores. TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Shortly, we'll be back to Darren and the briefing.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.251 to the dollar. The pound is 1.172 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,472.52 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the finance report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very welcome back to GB News. It is 23 minutes to 4 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. We're on TV, online and indeed on your wireless radio. And as you noticed, we are in Wakefield in Yorkshire, where there's going to be a by-election in just a couple of weeks' time. Do get in touch, by the way, gbviews at gbnews.uk, or indeed tweet us at GB News. We'll have to get to those before the end of the programme. But thank you very much indeed for your company. Now, as I say, we're in Ashfield. I think I said before the news bulletin Ashford. We're not going to go down the M1, not to Ashford, to Ashfield, of course, Gloria Piero's former constituency. And a bit like Wakefield, it was red for a very, very long period of time. For decades, it was a Labour constituency, but flipped to the Conservatives at the last election. And Gloria's been back to try and judge where the mood of voters is now, 3 years on from that election. What do they think of Boris Johnson, of Keir Starmer, of politics in general? This is a special report from Gloria. She goes back to her old constituency to test the temperature of people there.
So Ashfield, this former mining constituency, like so many constituencies with a mining heritage, it turned for the first time at a general election, that last general election, from always having a Labour MP to voting Conservative. It's seats like this that are responsible for Boris Johnson's whopping majority. So I wanted to come back 2.5 years later to listen to people here. Have they changed their mind? What do they think about politics? Hello everyone, it's good to be here in the Dog and Parrot in Eastwood. Some of you might know I used to live down the road. It's really good to be back because I learnt a lot from people that lived in this area. Cost of living crisis, we're all hearing about it. I was just wondering, has it affected any of your families? You and your family, the rising prices?
I have both my parents are pensioners and they live on their own, they've got their own house. But at the moment we have to look after them because they're struggling with the bills, groceries, their movement, the travel. So it's very hard for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think everybody makes a conscious effort to cut back rather than living the lives that we were doing 2-3 years ago. Yeah. I think everybody's cutting back and being conscious about what they're buying, where they're going, and ultimately who they're spending time with as well.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed a difference with the pub. The cost of the beer's gone up
and up and up and up. So as a trade, we've put our prices up once. I can't do it again. I just can't do it to customers. They're struggling themselves. So I prefer not to increase it.
And struggle yourself.
And struggle ourselves, yeah.
There more and more parents are having to ask for food parcels and things like that from that the Start Right group because they just can't cope. And
it's like a food bank, this Start Right group.
It's like a food bank, specifically more aimed towards families with children.
Right.
And there's been a phenomenal increase in the amount of families that are needing that support and are needing that help.
Do you think the government's doing enough, or do you have any ideas about what they could do to help you? Or is it just something that they can't control anywhere?
I think it could be helped with fuel. Every day you see about fuel going up and up and up and up. £1.80 for diesel, £1.60, 62. Yeah. I'm thinking £1.60 is the cheap now. It's like for petrol. I mean, we've got a petrol car and a diesel van, diesel ones for work. But that's £1.80. To fill a tank up now, it's nearly £80 or £90, where it used to be 60. You know, so it's a big jump on what you're having to put in your tanks, definitely.
It's the same with food. It's like I always go to Iceland, and I've noticed, I've said to my husband over the last few weeks, it's not like 1p or 2p. You're talking 20p, you're talking 25p, you're talking 50p. And that is a hell of a lot of money, especially, me personally, I work, and my husband, but them that don't,
it's difficult.
For whatever reason, it is difficult for them.
Especially when your weekly shop goes from 40
exactly.
to 60, 70, 80 in some cases.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's same for businesses. I mean, across the road, the restaurant, when we opened up, the items were a lot cheaper. Now, when we go to get the flour, the oil, the drinks, they're almost double price.
Yeah.
But we cannot increase our prices double because nobody's going to come in.
Yeah.
So we're the
same, don't we? Yeah. From my opinion, I'm not being funny or anything, but where you've got a politician that's getting a decent wage and everything else, I don't think they live in the world of reality. I really don't. I mean, I would love to go to some of these politicians and say, what's the price of a loaf of bread? What's the price of a full pint of milk? And actually ask them, because I don't think most of them actually understand the price of things these days. I think they sit there, they're getting paid this amount for expenses, this amount for a wage, and they're saying, well, I'm doing this, but nobody's actually seeing that in reality.
They talk the talk, but you've got to walk the walk now.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you trust, is there any politician that you trust?
No. Not now.
Not at the moment.
No.
I want you to take yourself back to that last general election, because the place where we're sitting is one of so many constituencies which went from always Labour MP at a general election to a Conservative MP at that general election. I mean, it's people like you that are going to determine the result of the next general election, by the way, because you determined it last time, because there was a big switch in here, like there was in so many other parts of the country.
I swapped.
You swapped?
I went Conservative from Labour, and I voted Labour all my life from the age of being able to vote. And I went to Conservative because I didn't trust Corbyn, basically.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, I don't trust any of them.
I didn't like Corbyn in any way, shape or form. So I changed, went for Boris. I thought he'd be a down-to-earth bloke. You know, he came across as a beer drinker, a nice bloke. Not saying that he's done a bad job through the crisis.
I don't think he did that through the COVID.
No, but I think he's made a rod for his own back with everything, and basically just been a big pushover. So it was probably one of the biggest mistakes the country's made for a long, long time.
Do you trust Boris Johnson, first of all? Do you trust Boris Johnson?
Not now.
No.
Not now.
No. Did?
No.
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Until what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
And then all that came out because the amount of families that have lost people, and we was had to abide by it. People were getting fined for it.
Heavily.
And exactly. And then all of a sudden it comes out, they decide they want to party. Let's do it all. Yeah, the leader of the country.
I think today
supposed to be setting an example for us.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're not telling me he didn't know what was going on.
It's like me not knowing what my staff are doing.
Yeah.
Really, it's like you.
He was at the parties, he broke the law, and how that man is still in power after everything he's done and hasn't lost the confidence of his party and the people absolutely bewilders me.
If he's got any kind of morals, more out of respect for those people that lost their lives, those that lost their businesses, that lost their living, if he's got anything like that, he should resign.
I'm going to ask you a different question now. I think we've had some very strong views about Boris Johnson. Keir Starmer.
I shut off from politics.
Where did Keir Starmer come from? Because all of a sudden, Corbyn left, Keir Starmer arrived. I had never even heard of Keir Starmer.
I knew too as well.
Never even heard. So, how on earth he got to become Labour, I do not know.
It was never publicised, was it?
No. So it's as though he was like, yeah, you can have that job. It's about time we had a politician or a Prime Minister that thought about British people for a change. Instead of what's happening abroad and what have you. Think of us for a change. I've always said to my husband, whoever's the Prime Minister has to look at as though our country is his household, right? And we're his children. Now, if you got children, you won't be giving your money away to another country. You'd look after your own children first. Make sure you've got a roof over your head. Pay your bills. They don't.
Can't do it now, can they? They can't pay
They
their
don't
bills.
do it.
When I say the word Conservative Party, what words come into your head?
Rich. Rich.
Yeah.
Village.
Rich.
Liars.
The rich.
Very
and
unreliable.
liars. Yeah.
Very unreliable.
Yeah.
The Labour Party.
Oh, God.
Working.
Yeah, working.
They're for the
It's
workers.
supposed to be for the people.
Well, they used to be for the workers.
Yeah.
It used to be, Labour used to be for the working class.
Yeah.
And then it changed. Because we got let down that often.
Is there anybody that you think, maybe that person or anyone past or present, that you think, well, I trusted that one?
Somebody who's walked in the shoes of an average person
Yeah.
that earns 20 grand a year
Yeah.
and has to live with
that
kids
life.
and live that life.
I think
Our
they
lives.
change the rules on politicians. I believe that they ought to change the rules on how you become a politician. It's all very well going to university, studying this, studying that, going into a law degree or whatever you are, but unless you've lived a life of a normal human being in this country, done a job, been on the dole, or whatever it be, you're never going to understand.
I would love somebody like Zelensky.
Really? So you thought of a politician that you trust, Zelensky?
Well, he's still there fighting with his people.
He's still
isn't he?
fighting for his people and what he's doing. That man must be on his knees for what's going on over there. And I can't see any of our MPs ever doing what that man is doing.
They fly to their manors in another country.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
But he's a brilliant example of someone who has lived a life and then gone into politics rather than being a politician.
Not the opposite way round.
Exactly.
He's had the experience of life to put into it.
Life experience, I think, is the biggest word.
Yeah, absolutely. Walk in your shoes is what someone said. I think it's a brilliant way of putting it. So thank you so much for giving me your words of wisdom, the difficult decisions that you will make come the next polling day, but you're very strong and well thought out views about what we need from our politics and politicians. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So lots of anger with the government, but no guarantees of voters switching back to Labour. So I moved to my dog walking chats. I always found political chats whilst dog walking were a great sounding board.
I was always a stout Labour supporter.
You were always Labour?
Always Labour, throughout my whole working life.
What, until last time?
Until last time.
When you voted for Boris Johnson and the Conservatives. Why?
Yes.
Why did you change your vote last time?
No faith in Labour because of the leader at the time.
Yeah.
I wanted Brexit, so I went for Johnson. I didn't know who else to vote for besides that. And I feel that Brexit probably wasn't the best route to take. And I've lost all faith in the Conservatives, as most people have. Of course, you don't know what to believe in what they say.
So, John, you're going to vote tomorrow. Just pretend there's a general election tomorrow. You voted Labour all your life. Like so many people in communities like this, you switched up that last election.
Yes.
What do you know what you're going to do?
I'm going to vote Labour.
You are?
I don't think Starmer's as strong as I thought it would be. I think it could come over stronger.
Yeah.
But I'm going to vote Labour. I believe in them more so than Conservatives this time.
So one-off, that vote you think was a one-off for Conservative?
Yes, probably a mistake in hindsight. But at the time, Labour was just off the rails.
Yeah.
I thought, I've got to go Conservative. I wanted Brexit.
Yeah.
Conservative wanted Brexit, so I went for Brexit.
What did I learn? Well, they've lost faith in Boris Johnson. They really have had some quite harsh words to say about him. But as for Labour, they haven't yet sealed the deal to get those voters back.
Yeah, OK, I'll throw back to Darren.
Really interesting report there from Gloria Piero in her old constituency of Ashfield. Back to Wakefield now, and to Ukraine, actually, because we're going to focus on that for a couple of minutes. Today, the United States announced it is going to send long-range rockets to the Ukrainian army. They've been asking for that for quite a long time, though President Zelensky insisting they will not be used against Russia itself, the country of Russia, though clearly against its forces inside Ukraine. It comes as Russia says that its nuclear forces are now carrying out drills in the northeast of Moscow. Russia also making some progress in the Donbass region today again. Let's bring in Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford, who's a former British Army officer and joins us down the line. Stuart, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here. First of all, these weapons, just explain what the United States is sending to the Ukrainians and how vital they could be.
Good afternoon, Darren, again, and nice to see you. The answer is that we don't know the quantity of weapons that are being sent. And whilst some people are saying it's a step change in capability, it's certainly a big improvement in what Ukraine can do at the moment. The important thing is range and accuracy. The missiles which are coming as part of the HIMARS system, the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, have a range of over 40 miles, 6 missiles in the pack, if you like. And that's almost doubling the reach of the Ukrainian armed forces and gives them a distinct advantage in terms of range, if not in terms of numbers, against their Russian opposition. So it's an important addition to Ukrainian army's capabilities, and one which will go some way to redress the balance of artillery systems in the Donbass and elsewhere.
And they may well be needed, of course, given the fact that Russia does seem to have made quite a lot of progress, or a reasonable amount of progress, in the last week or so, and that's continued, we believe, today in the Donbass region.
That appears to be correct. They're making progress, but it's very, very slow, and it's very step by step, because obviously resistance is fierce from the Ukrainian defenders. And also they're fighting in cities, and no army really wants to fight in a city or a town if it can avoid it. And I think we said that way back when the invasion started, that the Ukrainians would have to defend in the cities, which they've done very effectively. But if you look at the topography of the Donbass area, it looks like the Russians will expel the Ukrainians, or the Ukrainians will withdraw from Severodonetsk across the river to Lysychansk. And sorry, I had to look at that because I can never pronounce it correctly. And that's a different kettle of fish altogether. It's on the other side of the river, on the eastern side of a considerable river. In some places, the river is a gorge, and it will take a very great deal of effort to cross that in the face of a fierce defence.
OK, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford, as always, appreciate your analysis and your time this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed for joining us with the latest there on what is happening on the ground in Ukraine. OK, almost time for me to hand over from Wakefield back to London, and to Colin Brazier, who's on air from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Good afternoon, Colin. What's coming up on your programme in just a couple of minutes?
We run that amazing piece from Gloria. Wasn't it fantastic? Back in our old constituency, listening to what people on the ground really think about life and politics there. That was fantastic. What have we got for you? We have got Andrew Pearce, Associate Editor of the Daily Mail. He wrote a fascinating piece in today's paper, wondering whether, if the Tories are about to ditch Boris Johnson, who on earth amongst their ranks is a potential election winner right now? Dr. David Starkey, the country's leading historian, will be joining us as well to talk about the fact that here we are, eve of the Jubilee. What about the future of the monarchy? What about plans, for instance, in Australia to have a referendum on who will be their head of state? And also, we have got Kelvin Mackenzie, former editor of The Sun, my studio guest. That's all coming up from 4. Darren?
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather outlook. As we go into the long weekend, the weather gets more complicated, but for most places, tomorrow is going to be a fine day. A bit of a chilly start and then plenty of sunshine. The main exception to that will be Northern Ireland. This set of weather fronts just drifting southwards, interrupting the area of high pressure that is, as I say, bringing most of us a fine day, but it will bring more cloud to Northern Ireland tomorrow. Still this evening, a few heavy showers around over northern and eastern parts of England, but they're fading pretty rapidly, so generally it's a dry night, a clear night. Might turn a little misty, 1 or 2 fog patches over eastern parts of England. Certainly it's turning chilly. Temperatures again down into single figures, and again parts of Scotland not far off freezing. So a chilly start to the bank holiday. Any mist and fog will clear very quickly in the morning, and then basically blue skies for most of England, Wales and much of Scotland. But there's that weather front introducing the cloud for Northern Ireland. Rain creeping in from the west. A few showers are possible over parts of Scotland, Northern England, but very hit and miss. Most places will be dry and fine and quite a bit warmer than it has been. Temperatures widely in the south up to 20 degrees or a little higher. Through Thursday evening, we will see a bit more of that rain pushing into Northern Ireland, maybe a few more showers over northern Scotland, and then overnight, increasing chance of a bit more cloud coming in through the Irish Sea and bringing a few more showers here and there for Friday. So Friday looks like being fairly cloudy for Wales, northwest England, southwest England, and a few showers scattered about, maybe for Northern Ireland too. But again, many central and eastern parts on Friday also set fair, dry and fine, and with some sunshine and fairly light winds. There will be a bit of a breeze picking up along some of these North Sea coasts, making it feel a little cooler here, but inland temperatures again up over 20 Celsius. As we go towards Saturday and Sunday, though, increasing chance of cloud and some showers across the south. Bye for now.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street.
We'll bring you 4 days of
unforgettable moments
this bank holiday weekend.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos
at jubilee@gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us
on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock.